20 most dangerous old Hollywood actors who were out of control. Hollywood's golden age produced unforgettable heroes, lovers, and legends. But behind the glamour, many stars led far more dangerous lives than their on-screen personas suggested. Studio fixers worked tirelessly to suppress stories of violence, addiction, and criminal activity that could have shattered the public's idealized image of their favorite star. The actors and actresses you'll encounter weren't merely playing risky roles. Their real lives posed threats to those around them. One of the most disturbing examples involves a well-known swashbuckling heartthrob who was shielded by a major studio from facing criminal charges, while simultaneously being marketed to the public as the ideal romantic lead. Before we explore the darker side of Hollywood's history, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below. I read everyone and enjoy connecting with fellow classic film fans worldwide. The studio system that created stars also specialized in burying scandals, while publicists crafted wholesome images for public consumption. Behind the scenes, security teams, lawyers, and fixers worked tirelessly to conceal the dangerous reality of their valuable asset. Some of these performers brought weapons to sets, others drove assaulted co-stars, or maintained connections to organized crime. A few were so volatile, crew members feared for their safety during filming. Both men and women could be equally dangerous, though their behavior often manifested differently. Male stars might throw punches while actresses hurled vases. The threat was just as real to those on the receiving end. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on 20 of old Hollywood's most dangerous actors. Screen legends whose off-screen behavior would have ended their careers instantly. 20. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum's dangerous screen persona was more than just a character. His real-life behavior often mirrored the roles he played. Unlike other stars who carefully managed their public image, Mitchum seemed determined to break the mold. His most infamous scandal occurred in 1948 when he was arrested for smoking marijuana with actress Lila Lee. This led to national outrage, but what few knew was that Mitchum's reckless behavior went far beyond this incident. Behind the scenes, Mitchum's drinking often led to violent outbursts. During the filming of Blood on the Moon, 1948, he drunkenly confronted director Robert Wise, requiring crew members to intervene. His penchant for bar fights became so problematic that RKO hired a former boxer to keep him out of trouble. Police were instructed to call the studio rather than arrest him when incidents occurred. Despite his unpredictable nature and constant trouble, Mitchum's bad boy image only helped his career. He was open about his rough persona, claiming he started as a sex fiend. This unpredictability, however, made him both a risk and a star. His performance in Night of the Hunter, 1955, became iconic, and Mitchum's own words captured his career. "I kept trying to get fired, but they kept promoting me instead." 19. Johnny Weissmuller. Johnny Weissmuller, best known for playing Tarzan, brought athletic grace and courage to the role, but off-screen, his behavior was increasingly unpredictable and dangerous. A five-time Olympic gold medalist, Weissmuller struggled with alcoholism and likely suffered chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, due to head injury. His erratic actions on set, including an incident during Tarzan and His Mate, 1934, where he physically dragged a cameraman into a water tank, became notorious. Actress Maureen O'Sullivan recalled his strength when intoxicated, recalling an instance where he lifted a 200-pound electrician. Weissmuller's behavior worsened over time, with multiple reports of him diving through glass windows and injuring himself at studio parties. In 1946, he physically threatened producer Saul Lesser, choking him over the suggestion of replacing him in the Tarzan series. Later in life, Weissmuller's behavior became even more erratic, with reports of him reverting to his Tarzan persona and acting out in nursing. His son later reflected that the line between Tarzan and Johnny had blurred completely. Weissmuller's wildness, both on and off screen, marked a tragic downfall for a once heroic. 18. Tyrone Power. Tyrone Power, the epitome of Hollywood elegance with his matinee idol looks, was known for roles in films like The Mark of Zorro and Blood and Sand. However, his polished image hid a dangerous addiction to adrenaline that often put him and others at risk. Power had a reckless obsession with speed, particularly through dangerous driving. Filming Marie Antoinette in 1938, he reportedly drove his Bugatti at over 80 miles per hour through residential areas, with actress Norma Shearer terrified in the passenger. Police were called, but Power used his studio connections to avoid any consequence. Power's risky behavior didn't stop with driving. He became a licensed pilot in 1936 and performed dangerous dangerous aerial stunts. During World War II, his commanders noted his reckless flying, and in 1948, he performed a near-fatal stunt by diving a plane over his ex-wife's home. Power also insisted on doing his own stunt. During the Black Rose, 1950, he ignored safety rules and injured himself severely, opting to self-medicate instead of seeking proper care. Ultimately, his reckless lifestyle caught up with him when he suffered a heart attack at 44 while filming Solomon and Sheba, 1958. Director Henry King remarked, "Ty lived like he was immortal, and eventually it caught up with him." 17. Lupe Velez. Lupe Velez, known as the Mexican Spitfire, embodied both fiery passion and danger, earning her reputation both on and off screen. Her intense performances captivated audiences, but her volatile temper and violent behavior made her one of the most unpredictable actresses of the 1920s and 30s. Born in Mexico, Velez brought a wild energy to Hollywood that captivated but also unnerved studio executives. Unlike many of her contemporaries, she couldn't hide her emotion, particularly her explosive rage. Her tumultuous relationship with Gary Cooper became notorious. Violent outbursts like chasing him with a kitchen knife and firing a gun at him. Cooper confessed he feared for his safety, likening their love to holding nitroglycerin. Velez's temper extended to film sets. In 1931, she threw a makeup case at director Cecil B. DeMille, injuring him, leading to anger management counseling. In a 1933 premiere, she physically attacked actress Lillian Gish, believing she was involved with Cooper. Her outbursts were marketed as part of her allure, with studios branding her as untamed. When Velez tragically took her life in 1944 at 36, Hollywood's reaction was mixed, with some expressing relief over the inevitable harm her behavior could cause. 16. John Barrymore. John Barrymore, celebrated as the great profile and one of the finest actors of his time, was known for his Shakespearean roles on stage and screen. However, beneath his refined exterior, he battled alcoholism, which led to increasingly erratic and dangerous behavior. By the 1920s, Barrymore's drinking had already earned a reputation in theater circles, and it often spilled into violent action. On the set of Grand Hotel, 1932, director Edmund Goulding had to lock Barrymore in his dressing room after he threatened co-star Wallace Beery with a hunting knife. His alcoholism caused him to destroy property regularly, including causing over $22,000 in damages, equivalent to $350,000 today, at the Ambassador Hotel. Barrymore's erratic behavior on set was equally disturbing. He once brought a loaded revolver to a filming session, demanding real bullets for authenticity, and threatened others with dangerous animals, including a live octopus and a bear cub. His blackouts, during which he became violently unpredictable, terrified colleagues. Despite his dangerous actions, Barrymore's talent and family legacy protected him, allowing him to continue working until his death in 1942. His brother, Lionel, noted that without the Barrymore name, John would have been institutionalized or jailed long before. 15. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford is often remembered for the explosive allegations in her daughter's memoir, Mommy Dearest, but her volatile temper and aggression weren't confined to her personal life. On film sets, Crawford was equally feared for her physical outbursts and manipulative tactics that made her a dangerous presence behind the scenes. Her strict perfectionism frequently turned violent. During the production of Sudden Fear, 1952, she reportedly attacked a wardrobe assistant with a metal hanger for bringing the wrong shoes, leaving a serious wound. Rather than facing consequences, RKO paid the assistant to stay silent and moved her to another project. Co-stars were not spared. Fred MacMurray once recalled how Crawford clawed his face during a scene for Above Suspicion, 1943, after he missed a cue, smiling while digging her nails in deep enough to leave permanent scars. Crawford's drinking worsened her behavior. MGM records describe multiple incidents where she had to be restrained after drunken confrontation. In one alarming moment, she allegedly threatened producer Louis B. Mayer with a letter opener during a dispute. Her aggression wasn't impulsive, it was strategic. Makeup artist William Tuttle said she would target someone early in a production to instill fear in the rest of the crew. 14. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart's famed tough guy persona in films like Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon reflected a reality not far from his on-screen image. Behind the scenes, Bogart struggled with alcoholism and a violent temper that Warner Brothers worked hard to cover up. During the shooting of To Have and Have Not, 1944, a drunk Bogart physically attacked director Howard Hawks over a camera setup disagreement. The incident led to the studio banning alcohol on set, specifically targeting Bogart. Known for his fierce reactions when disrespected, Bogart once pulled a knife on a restaurant maitre d' who cut him off from drinking, according to actor David Niven. On his yacht, the Santana, Bogart often sailed while intoxicated intoxicated, endangering passengers. A 1945 trip nearly ended in disaster when he attempted a reckless maneuver in rough waters with 6 people aboard, including his wife at the time, Mayo Methot. Their tumultuous marriage, often labeled the Battling Bogarts, was marred by frequent violence. Police were called to their home multiple times, and Bogart once sustained a deep cut during a domestic altercation. Even his later relationship with Lauren Bacall had its challenges, with Bacall frequently managing his erratic behavior. 13. George Raft. George Raft's authentic ties to organized crime made him one of Hollywood's most genuinely dangerous figures. Unlike other actors who portrayed gangsters, Raft had grown up among them in New York's Hell's Kitchen. His criminal association, including with notorious mobsters like Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky, continued into his Hollywood career. FBI files later revealed that these were not just casual friendships, but deep operational ties that often led Raft into perilous situations. Raft's behavior on set reflected his intimidating reputation. Director Raoul Walsh had a first-hand experience of this when, after criticizing Raft's performance in The Bowery, 1933, 2 unknown men visited him to suggest he should be more constructive. Actress Ann Sheridan, who worked with Raft, said everyone was on edge around him, knowing he had powerful friends who could make problems vanish. Raft's temper flared when he believed a cameraman had wronged him during Nocturne, 1946, threatening the man with physical harm. His connections also helped him secure roles, including in Some Like It Hot, 1959, after the original actor mysteriously withdrew. Raft's possessiveness even bled into his personal life, as actress Betty Grable reported receiving threatening messages after ending their brief relationship. 12. Lawrence Tierney. Lawrence Tierney's portrayal of gangster John Dillinger in the 1945 film Dillinger was more reality than fiction. Known for his violent tendencies and criminal behavior, Tierney's off-screen actions made him one of Hollywood's most dangerous figures. His police record, which includes 12 arrests between 1944 and 1951 for offenses such as public drunkenness and assault, reflected his volatility. Despite his undeniable talent, his behavior became so extreme that studios, including RKO, eventually stopped offering legal protection, allowing him to face the consequences of his action. On set, Tierney's temper posed a serious threat to those around him. During the filming of Born to Kill, 1947, he hurled a prop glass at director Robert Wise, narrowly missing him and injuring a crew member. He also reportedly threatened a young extra with a broken bottle over a minor mistake. His aggression extended to women as well, with actress Claire Trevor claiming he once strangled her after a disagreement. Tierney's dangerous behavior persisted throughout his career. Even in the 1980s, during a brief appearance on Seinfeld, his erratic actions led to his dismissal after stealing a butcher knife from the set. Known for his unpredictability, Tierney's reputation as a violent man remained constant, even during his later years, as seen in his physical altercation with director Quentin Tarantino on Reservoir Dogs, 1992. 11. Clara Bow. Clara Bow, the original It Girl, became an icon of the 1920s with her lively flapper persona. However, beneath her glamorous image lay a troubled woman whose violent outbursts and erratic behavior made her one of early Hollywood's most dangerous figures. Bow's childhood in poverty, compounded by her mother's mental illness, left her with unresolved trauma that often surfaced in unpredictable ways. On the set of Red Hair, 1928, Bow reportedly threatened a hairstylist with scissors after becoming upset over her look, later cutting her own hair in frustration. Her volatile nature extended beyond herself, with reports of property damage linked to her temper, such as a 1927 incident where she set fire to a hotel room after a fight with her boyfriend. Bow's destructive behavior worsened under the influence of drugs prescribed to her by Paramount-affiliated doctors to cope with her demanding schedule. During a cocaine-fueled episode on The Wild Party, 1929, Bow attacked director Dorothy Arzner with a hat pin. In 1930, she physically assaulted a woman at a nightclub, and Paramount paid $10,000 to avoid charges. Bow's behavior was often downplayed by studios as passion or artistic temperament. By 1933, Bow experienced severe mental health issues, including psychotic episodes. Exploited until her breakdown, Bow's dangerous outbursts were ultimately a result of both untreated mental illness and substance abuse. 10. Ray Danton. Ray Danton played charismatic criminals so convincingly in films like The Rise and Fall of Legs Diamond and The George Raft Story that audiences assumed he was merely a talented actor. The disturbing reality, known to few outside industry insiders, was that Danton's criminal connections weren't fictional, and his dangerous behavior extended far beyond the screen. Unlike stars who merely portrayed underworld figures, Danton maintained active relationships with organized crime associates throughout his career. FBI files declassified in the 1990s reveal that he was under intermittent surveillance from 1956 to 1968 due to his connections to known crime families in Chicago and Los Angeles. These weren't simply social relationships. During production of The Beat Generation, 1959, Danton allegedly used mob connections to intimidate a young actor who had been given a role he wanted for a friend. According to production notes, the actor suddenly withdrew from the project, citing personal reasons after a late-night visit from two unidentified men. Danton's dangerous reputation was enhanced by his habit of carrying weapons. Multiple crew members reported seeing him with concealed knives and, on at least one occasion, an unregistered handgun on set. During filming of Portrait of a Mobster, 1961, a prop master discovered that Danton had swapped a prop switchblade for a real one before a fight scene, creating a genuinely dangerous situation for his co-star. His worlds. Director Bud Bodeker, who worked with Danton on The Story of a Mobster, later wrote in his unpublished memoirs, "Ray wasn't acting, he was remembering. The way he held a gun, the casual manner in which he discussed violence, these weren't studied techniques. They were learned behaviors from people he actually knew." Perhaps most concerning were the allegations that Danton used studio resources to facilitate criminal activities. A Warner Brothers security guard reported that Danton frequently received visitors on closed sets who appeared to have no connection to production, with packages changing hands during these meetings. When security raised concerns, they were told by executives to focus on external threats. His marriage to actress Julie Adams was reportedly marked by controlling and threatening behavior that extended to her professional relationships. After their divorce, Adams was reluctant to discuss their marriage in detail, saying only that there were aspects of Ray that weren't visible to the public, and that's probably for the best. What made Danton particularly dangerous was how he leveraged his dual worlds, using Hollywood connections to enhance his criminal associations and vice versa. As one unnamed producer told author James Elroy during research for a book on Hollywood crime, Ray straddled both worlds so comfortably that you were never sure which version of him you were dealing with, the actor playing a gangster or the gangster playing an actor. 9. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, known worldwide for his beloved little tramp persona, captivated audiences with charm and whimsy. Yet behind the scenes, Chaplin's real-life demeanor sharply contrasted with his on-screen innocence. His reputation for being domineering, short-tempered, and exploitative made him a threatening presence in early Hollywood, particularly toward young women. Chaplin's obsessive control over his films led to hazardous working conditions. While shooting The Gold Rush, 1925, he forced actress Georgia Hale to perform a snow scene 65 times in freezing temperatures, ultimately causing her to suffer from hypothermia. When crew members objected, he allegedly fired 3 of them on the spot. Violence was not uncommon. On the set of City Lights, 1931, he smashed a camera lens in anger, injuring a cameraman, then blamed the man for the damage and deducted his pay. Chaplin also had a history of inappropriate relationships with underage girls. His second wife, Lita Gray, was only 15 when they began their relationship, and she later accused him of physical abuse. Similar allegations came from 17-year-old Joan Barry, who sued him for paternity. Chaplin's authoritarian streak extended to his film's content. He reportedly threatened a censor with veiled warnings during a review of Modern Times. As his influence grew, so did his volatile behavior, once firing a blank-loaded prop gun near a crew member's head on Monsieur Verdoux, 1947, causing hearing damage. Actress Claire Bloom described working with Chaplin as terrifying, and his fame often shielded him from the consequences of his actions, unlike most stars of his era. 8. Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery, beloved for his gruff charm in classics like The Champ and Treasure Island, had a far darker presence off-screen. Though he was one of MGM's top stars in the 1930s, those who worked closely with him often described a violent, temperamental man whose aggressive behavior was both frequent and dangerous. The most chilling accusation tied to Beery involves the mysterious 1937 death of comedian Ted Healy, the founder of the Three Stooges. Multiple witnesses claimed Beery, along with two others, brutally assaulted Healy outside the Trocadero nightclub after a drunken dispute. Healy died days later from his injuries. No charges were brought, largely due to the intervention of MGM fixer Eddie Mannix, who allegedly arranged for Beery to be overseas at the time of Healy's death. Beery's outbursts weren't limited to that incident. On the set of Dinner at 8, 1933, he reportedly attacked director George Cukor during an argument over screen time. MGM responded not with discipline, but by assigning him on-set security. He was notoriously cruel to child actors, especially Jackie Cooper and Jackie Searle, reportedly injuring both on different occasions during filming. Women didn't fare better. Co-star Marie Dressler refused future work with Beery after he physically harassed her during scenes. Yet MGM protected him, setting aside special funds to cover damages caused by his behavior. Director William Wellman once called him the most hated man in Hollywood, while MGM chief Louis B. Mayer admitted Beery had to be constantly watched due to his volatile nature. 7. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, famously dubbed the King of Hollywood, radiated masculine allure in classic films like Gone with the Wind and It Happened One Night. But beneath the charming facade was a man whose troubling and at times dangerous behavior, particularly toward women, was consistently buried by MGM's powerful publicity apparatus. The most disturbing episode involved actress Loretta Young during the 1935 filming of The Call of the Wild. Gable allegedly assaulted Young, resulting in a pregnancy she concealed by leaving town and later claiming her child was adopted. Decades later, personal notes revealed that Young privately viewed the encounter as non-consensual, describing it as date rape long before such terminology existed. MGM executives, fully aware, orchestrated her disappearance and paid for her retreat, protecting Gable while silencing Young. Actress Judy Lewis, the child born of that encounter, later wrote that other women shared similar stories of Gable's inappropriate conduct. Meanwhile, Gable's issues weren't limited to sexual misconduct. His alcoholism led to multiple car accidents between 1939 and 1945, at least one involving serious injury. MGM's legal team ensured none of these incidents reached the public or resulted in charges. Gable's wartime service also raised concern. Following Carole Lombard's death, he joined the military and repeatedly volunteered for high-risk bombing missions, endangering both himself and his fellow airmen. Insiders described him as reckless and attention-seeking. Gable's fame shielded him from consequences. MGM head Louis B. Mayer tightly managed any fallout, illustrating how power enabled behavior that might have destroyed a lesser star. 6. John Wayne. John Wayne, known for his heroic roles and rugged patriotism, was a towering figure in American cinema. But behind his screen persona lay a darker reality marked by a fiery temper, heavy alcohol use, and frequent outbursts that created an unsafe atmosphere on set. Wayne's aggression often targeted crew members who challenged his authority. While working on The Green Berets, 1968, which he both directed and starred in, he allegedly assaulted a young sound technician who suggested a script adjustment, lifting the man by his collar and slamming him against a wall before issuing a stern warning. His drinking only fueled his volatility. Director Howard Hawks recorded Wayne's daily bourbon intake during Red River, 1948, noting a fifth consumed per day. When approached about cutting back, Wayne hurled a chair in anger, barely missing a nearby cameraman. Wayne's demand for realism often came at the expense of safety. On The Alamo, 1960, he fired the stunt coordinator for enforcing safety standards and took over despite lacking proper training, leading to multiple on-set injuries. More disturbing were his remarks to Native American actors on westerns. Iron Eyes. Cody recalled threats made to those who questioned the accuracy of scenes, prompting some to refuse future collaborations with Wayne. Wayne's fame shielded him from repercussions. On The Cowboys, 1972, he brought a loaded gun to set, claiming he needed protection, yet no one reported him. As director Mark Rydell put it, Wayne wasn't just acting tough, he lived it, often to the detriment of those around him. 5. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney's wholesome, all-American image in films like Andy Hardy and his musicals with Judy Garland made him MGM's biggest box office star in the late 1930s and early 1940s. However, behind this cheerful persona was a man whose volatile behavior, fueled by severe gambling problems, a violent temper, and predatory tendencies, created dangerous situations both on and off off the set. By the mid-1940s, Rooney's gambling had spiraled out of control, leading him into debt with dangerous criminal bookmakers. MGM had to step in multiple times to prevent harm, including a 1947 incident where studio fixer Eddie Mannix paid off $25,000 to avoid violent retribution. His gambling habits led him to attempt a fake robbery for insurance money, a plan halted only by studio threats to end his contract. Rooney's temper often endangered others, especially less powerful crew members. On the set of National Velvet, 1944, he became enraged over Elizabeth Taylor's treatment and pushed a heavy lighting stand, nearly injuring her. Instead of reprimanding him, MGM stationed security to watch his interactions with Taylor. Rooney's behavior toward female co-stars and young fans was also concerning. He sabotaged scenes if actresses rejected his advances and exploited his fame for privacy with teenage girls. His reckless driving also led to multiple accidents, prompting the studio to hire a chauffeur for safety. What made Rooney particularly dangerous was how his public image masked his true nature. His youthful appearance allowed his erratic behavior to shock those around him, creating an environment where he exploited his power with little restraint. 4. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando revolutionized acting with his raw, powerful performances in films such as A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront. However, his volatile behavior, physical intimidation, and self-destructive tendencies created hazardous conditions for himself and those around him. One of the most significant examples of Brando's dangerous nature occurred during the production of Mutiny on the Bounty, 1962. His interference with sailing sequences, despite lacking nautical experience, caused accidents and injuries among background performers. When the sailing master tried to intervene, Brando threatened to have him removed. Director Carol Reed quit due to Brando's behavior, and his replacement, Louis Milestone, described Brando's actions as creating perilous situations that endangered the crew. The production exceeded its budget and nearly bankrupted MGM, causing immense stress for studio head Saul Siegel. Brando's unpredictability continued throughout his career. On the set of The Godfather, 1972, he fired an unregistered handgun at a ceiling light, creating panic among the crew. His manipulation of colleagues became notorious, such as during Last Tango in Paris, 1972, where he emotionally and physically intimidated actress Maria Schneider for the controversial rape scene. Brando's dangerous combination of physical power and psychological manipulation made him a formidable presence on set. His behavior often disrupted productions, as seen in Apocalypse Now, 1979, where his demanding attitude and lack of preparation contributed to significant delays. As critic Pauline Kael noted, Brando didn't just act dangerous roles, he brought chaos to every film he was part of. 3. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn's swashbuckling charm made him Warner Bros.' biggest star of the 1930s and 40s. His off-screen behavior, however, revealed a man far darker and more dangerous than his heroic screen persona, one whose predatory tendencies, substance abuse, and volatile nature were systematically concealed by a studio desperate to protect its valuable asset. The most disturbing aspect of Flynn's behavior involved his sexual predation of underage girls. In 1942, he was arrested and charged with statutory rape of 2 teenagers, 17-year-old Betty Hansen and 16-year-old Peggy Satterley, while Flynn was ultimately acquitted, largely due to Warner Bros.' extraordinary legal resources and jury manipulation. Internal studio memos uncovered decades later reveal executives were well aware of Flynn's pattern of pursuing minors. Jack Warner personally established what studio employees called the Flynn Fund, money specifically allocated to silence complaints from parents of young girls Flynn had targeted. According to Warner Brothers financial records, this fund paid out over $50,000, equivalent to nearly $800,000 today, between 1938 and 1946. Flynn's infamous yacht, the Sirocco, became the setting for particularly troubling behavior. The actor regularly hosted what he called fishing trips with underage girls provided by studio fixers. Warner Brothers security chief Frank Griffin later admitted that part of his job was ensuring these excursions remained private, sometimes physically intimidating photographers or journalists who got too close. Beyond his predatory behavior, Flynn's substance abuse created dangerous situations on set. His addiction to cocaine and alcohol led to erratic behavior during filming, particularly in scenes requiring weapons. During production of The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, Flynn reportedly arrived intoxicated for a sword-fighting sequence and seriously injured stuntman Fred Graham when he ignored the choreography. When Graham protested, Flynn allegedly threatened him with the same sword off camera. Flynn's volatile temperament made him unpredictable and sometimes violent. Actress Olivia de Havilland, who co-starred with Flynn in 8 films, later revealed that she had witnessed him physically assault a wardrobe assistant who brought him the wrong costume, grabbing the man by his collar and throwing him against a wall. When de Havilland reported the incident to directors, she was advised to stay on Flynn's good side. 2. Nick Adams. Nick Adams, known for his boyish charm and friendship with James Dean, rose to fame in 1950s Hollywood. However, behind his clean-cut image was a man deeply involved with organized crime, known for violent tendencies and criminal activities that likely contributed to his mysterious death at 36. Adams wasn't just an actor playing tough guys. He maintained active relationships with mob figures throughout his career. Declassified FBI files revealed that Adams acted as a liaison between Hollywood and the mob, facilitating illegal gambling and drug deals while keeping his public image intact. He even used mob connections to secure roles, including in the 1965 film Tickle Me with Elvis Presley, where a director mysteriously withdrew after what was described as health concerns, a common euphemism for mob intimidation. Adams' violent nature extended beyond the professional realm. On the set of his TV series The Rebel, he physically assaulted a writer over script changes, breaking his nose. Instead of facing consequences, the writer was simply reassigned. Adams also carried an unregistered firearm, with one incident involving him brandishing a weapon at a restaurant while intoxicated. His ties to organized crime may have led to the 1964 death of actress Corinne Coupe-Chanette, who had knowledge of his criminal activities. While officially ruled an overdose, many suspect Adams's death in 1968 was a mob hit. As crime writer James Ellroy put it, Nick Adams wasn't dangerous because he was tough. He was dangerous because he connected Hollywood to real criminals. 1. William Holden. William Holden, known for his tough guy image in classics like Sunset Boulevard and The Bridge on the River Kwai, struggled with severe alcoholism, violent outbursts, and reckless behavior. One of his most dangerous incidents occurred in 1966 when he killed a driver in a drunk driving accident in Italy. Paramount Studios arranged a settlement to protect Holden, avoiding legal consequences. Holden had several other driving incidents, often with no charges filed thanks to studio intervention. His alcoholism worsened over the years, creating unsafe conditions on set, especially during The Wild Bunch, 1969, where director Sam Peckinpah noted Holden's intoxication during action sequences. Holden also had a history of making unwanted advances toward co-stars, with some actresses refusing to work with him again. As his alcoholism spiraled, he became increasingly unpredictable. Holden's behavior ultimately contributed to his tragic death in 1981 when he slipped and bled to death after a drunken fall. From Joan Crawford to Marlon Brando to Charlie Chaplin, these were some of the most dangerous stars from Hollywood's golden age. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel to catch the next list. Thank you for watching.